Hello, everyone. This is Miranda, your personal development partner. Whether you're starting your first step as an entrepreneur or seeking to scale existing ventures, Elevate with Miranda is here to equip you with the tools you need. On today's episode, we'll be discussing a very interesting topic: how you can break into tech without a computer science degree. I know many of you aspiring developers might feel like you need a computer science degree or years of formal education in order for you to break into tech. But our guest for today is proof that with passion, dedication, and the right approach, you can achieve tremendous success. Joining me today is the inspiring Ushahemba from Nigeria. Usha's journey from he studied in a completely non-technical field and moved into technical due to his passion for technology. He taught himself how to code, and that led him to landing his dream job. I'm so happy to have you here, Usha, with me. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for finding me worthy to be on your platform.
Oh, that's so nice of you. So, can you just introduce yourself to our viewers?
All right. So, my name is Ushahemba. I'm from Nigeria, and my background was in library science. I studied library science in the university.
Okay.
Relocated in Lagos in 2019 and got a job with a private library. So while working there, I started learning tech. And somewhere around 2021, I transitioned fully into tech. And today, I'm a full stack developer with more specialty in backend.
Okay.
And also an entrepreneur.
Oh, that's so inspiring. So, I would like to know what motivated you moving from working in a library and all of a sudden you switched to tech. What was that push?
What motivated me? Well, a couple of reasons. But to start with, it was out of curiosity. I love learning generally. So out of curiosity, I've been hearing about programming. So I decided to do some learning, just Google, get some HTML videos to watch, play around it. And I found it very interesting. I could do something in VS Code and then open up my browser and see it.
Okay.
So it was fun for me. And then I will later also hear that there's lots of money in tech.
Money.
And for me, I said, okay, maybe this is what you should do. And yeah, so I would say money.
Oh, that is interesting. Of course, the paid developers very well. And during the course of your journey, have you experienced any challenge? Can you just give us some of, if there are challenges you experienced, can you just give us examples and how you overcame them?
Yes, I've experienced lots of challenges. Even till today, I'm still experiencing challenges. The number one challenge was the difficulty in understanding, because when I jumped into tech, I started with HTML, which looked quite easy.
Okay.
And I felt the whole thing was easy. I remember telling myself that they say programming is hard, but this is simple. But after HTML and CSS, when I started learning JavaScript, so it was difficult understanding what I was studying. So for good 3 months, I would watch YouTube video, code along, and it would still show me error. So I felt like I was dumb. I felt like I was the most unintelligent human being. Okay. So that was a very big challenge. And then the second challenge was getting my first job. Okay. That was also very difficult. It took over 2 years. So you can imagine what I must have been going through within all that period. So yeah, it was very challenging.
So at that time, were you still working in the library while in search of a job in tech?
Yes, I was still working in the library. I was still working in the library and still searching for other opportunities. Because my library job, most times I have free times. And then, so yeah.
Okay. So, and how did you finally overcome? You see, it took you like 2 years. What finally happened before you could overcome the challenge of joblessness or not having the results you desired?
Yeah, so one of the things that played a key role, because, you know, with time, I kept making friends. So if I hear someone is a developer, I get close to the person. Okay. So I now had friends. And then, so it was through friends that someone who was leaving a job decided to recommend me and bring me on board. And then so that was how I got my first job. So most of the jobs I applied for, they needed experience. So it's a common thing in tech. For you to get a job, the employer wants to be sure that you have the experience. You've worked long enough. So as a beginner, it's always a very big challenge. Because on your CV, the experience won't be there. But how do you get your first job to get that experience in the first place? So you can see where the challenge always comes from.
So from what I'm getting, from everything you said, you need to expose yourself. Because I think not just in tech, even in other fields, you need to get connected to the right people, network. When there are events, join a community of developers. That's
exactly
what, yeah.
Exactly. You need that.
Okay. So has there been any time where you face maybe rejection? Can you just give an example where maybe you face rejection knowing that you do not have any background in technology, maybe rejected in companies and things like that?
Yeah. So the first instance of rejection I faced was an intern offer, which I got also through a friend, a senior friend. My internship was 3 months, and we had an understanding that after the internship, I would take a full-time role. And to my surprise, even before the 3 month elapsed, I was relieved of my offer. I've never had an intern being sacked. I think I was the first. So I didn't understand why that happened. And also, a lot of jobs I was applying for. So the painful part was that I wasn't even getting feedback. If I apply, nobody responds. But several years later, I will come to understand that I was actually not good enough. Because my journey, I learned on my own, right? So when you go to YouTube and learn, you cannot know enough. So one of the basic skills you need for tech when it comes to working, aside understanding tech itself, is GitHub. Because developers work together. The collaboration tool you use is GitHub. And for you to understand GitHub very well, you need to find yourself working with community of developers. So if you're just watching videos on your own, you won't understand some things, like maybe merging, conflict, people contributing. You may not have some of those skills. So I also got one intern offer that also exposed me, that also made me to realize that I actually did not know enough. And it reflected in my CV. And that was the reason why I wasn't even getting responses. So it's a whole journey. And you can start by learning on your own, but you have to go beyond that. You need to have community of people. You need to work on projects, collaborate with people, master tools like GitHub very well before you can really work very well in a company.
You're giving a lot of information. You spoke about tools, like since we're already talking about the tools, how for someone who is just starting, how can you know the right tools to focus on? You spoke about GitHub. What other tool? And where can you find this community of developers?
So for a start, if web is your area of interest, because programming is very, very vast. So we talk about web, gaming, and several aspects of programming. So mobile. So if web is your interest, which is one of the most common, then you can start with HTML. So then from HTML, you learn CSS. Then from CSS, JavaScript. So these are the three basic things that you need. You follow it in that order. First, understand your HTML, CSS. So both of them are relatively easier compared to JavaScript. And then from there, so you need those three technologies. Start.
And you also mentioned they should collaborate on GitHub projects, and that will expose them to.
Yes. But for a start, just learn HTML, learn CSS, learn JavaScript.
So now, I want for aspiring developers. This interview is focused for those who want to break into tech, aspiring developers. So what advice will you give them on? Maybe will you advise them to learn by themselves, or to go to a formal institution? Should they follow your path? What will you say?
First of all, the first thing I would tell them is that they should be set for disappointment. Because myself started learning programming somewhere late 2018. And between 2018 and 2024, the industry has changed a lot. So it was difficult then to get a job. Now it's even more difficult. And why is it so? Because the advance in AI, the entry level in tech has advanced further. So right now, companies don't look for beginners. In the past, maybe in the early 2000s, all you need is HTML. You can get a job. Maybe with CSS, you can get a job. But today, that's not enough. So even if you know React, maybe some front end, you still need to know much.
Okay.
So the level, the expectations now are more than compared to maybe 5, 10 years earlier, because with AI, it's very easy to do simple things. So people want people that can solve the big problems. And for you to be able to solve big problems, you need to go deep. You need to really understand much. So don't have that mindset that it's going to come easy, but then you need to have that mindset. And then you need to learn, make sure you go deep, understand the fundamentals, understand in depth, right? If maybe something like React front end, you go deep into it and then build network and yeah.
Oh, okay, that is great. My last question for you. So, how would they expose themselves? Like, I know you said getting your first job is usually very challenging. How will you advise them after they've acquired the knowledge? How would they expose themselves to get maybe a job as a developer?
Yeah, so there are different approaches, different ways. So the best way would be to follow all the paths, right? Don't just rely on one approach. So one of the approaches is to have a portfolio site where you talk about yourself, you talk about your projects, and then you need to also work on a very nice project, right? Like look for a project that is a bit, maybe an e-commerce site with a lot of features, or any kind of project should be sound. Then post the GitHub report there, the link to it, talk about it. And then that's one of the approach. And then networking, also have a lot of friends, because recommendation works better. It's easier for you to be employed if someone internally recommends you than just getting a job out there. So you also need to build a lot of network with friends to make sure you are seen. And also open source, right? So if you don't know about open source, you can check it up. You also need to contribute to open source. So open source are like maybe general report that developers contribute. And your ability to contribute to open source also shows how good you are as a developer. So you also need to contribute to open source. And then last but not the least, you also need to invest in algorithms and data structures. Because most tech job interviews, you'll be given some algorithm challenges to solve. And when you talk about algorithms, it's a bit different from maybe just writing code. Because if you are a web person, you can just sit and build a website. But if they say maybe an algorithm challenge can be a question like maybe write a function. If it's, let's say it's JavaScript, right? So they might ask you to write a function. Maybe they will give you a letter. They say write a function that will remove all the alphabets that are D, something like that. So you also need to learn about algorithm and data structures. We have a couple of platforms online that you can sign up and learn, because most technical interviews ends with algorithms and so you also need to explore that.
Thank you so much, Usha. It has been very insightful with you. I wish we had more time, so you just share all the knowledge you have, just give it to our viewers. But I've learned a lot from what you've shared. I think you mentioned a couple of points. For you aspiring developers, the first thing from what our guest said, you need to join communities, right? It's good to have all the formal educations, but study that a lot of resources, free resources online. Go to YouTube, go to Udemy, you'll find a lot of articles. You study them by yourself. You join communities of developers in your area, in your town. Just search online, go to Google, search for developers community, and attend those events, network with people. And he also spoke about contributing to open source projects. If you go to GitHub, right, you'll find open source projects. Contribute to them, and then I try applying for internship. At the start, it will be very challenging, but just start with an internship. And before you notice, you skyrocket in your career. So he said a lot of things. I cannot summarize all, but it has been a very insightful moment with you, Usha. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure our viewers have been so inspired by this session. If you have any question for Usha, you can drop it in the comment section below. And I'll leave your details in the description section, right? Maybe LinkedIn, what again, Facebook?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I'll leave all Usha's details in the description. You can connect with him. You can ask him any questions. As we said, it's all about connection. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.